everyone, and welcome to Banter with the Boys. I nearly said Bevvies with the Boys, but I got away with it this time. I'm Munch, that's Dagda, we are the boys, and today for some banter, we are joined by Jamada and Yamato Cannon. Lads, welcome to the stream. It's lovely to have you both. Fantastic to see you both. How are you guys doing? It's been a big old split in Europe for you both. Like Jamada getting on the LEC, Yamato Cannon. I mean, where do we begin? Yeah. How are we feeling? How are we feeling tonight? Ready for some banter?
You start, Yamada. You start.
Yeah. No, I'm I'm doing good. I've had a big old bunch of time off. I wasn't on the finals weekend, so honestly, I've just kind of been soaking in, not going back and forth to Berlin every single weekend, and just doing my best to get back into routines and enjoying all of the still League of Legends going on, right? LPL, LCK, NA. So it's been fun, yeah.
It never stops.
To follow up on that, I've had even more time off because I was off after just the first 3 weeks. It was painful at the start, but the wounds have healed and the scars are reminders of the lessons of the split. And now I'm just co-streaming, so it's been a good time. It's good to be on your show. Thank you for the invitation. And
of course.
Sorry for coming across Dagda as a very unorganized person. I'm living a life where the evenings are completely free. I'm just a goblin, so when someone gives me the call, I'm ready to go. I'm just eating currywurst and going to the gym.
First of all, currywurst is fucking goated.
Yes.
And second of all, no worries. I literally made the overlay for tonight about 5 minutes ago, so you're in good company here for last minute organization. Also, what the other guests we had lined up dropped out, so Jamada only accepted the invitation.
Yeah.
Like, what, 90 minutes ago? If that?
With an hour and a half notice. Yeah. Don't worry, I'm just here, guys.
We are very well organized in this show, you know?
Big time. Big time. All right, let's start as we mean to go on. I think we should start on the LEC, probably, since you guys are all LEC guys. I'm mostly going to let you guys do the talking because I haven't watched everything of LEC this year, I'll be totally honest, and I don't want to just chat utter bollocks. Despite the fact that being really my specialty over the years, I'll mostly leave it to you guys. Rob, do you want to kick us off as my co-host compadre, LEC aficionado yourself? How are we feeling about spring split? Winter's over, spring is here. It's March now. How are we feeling?
I mean, it still feels like it's going to be a G2 win, right? Like, let's be real, coming into the split. It feels hard to kind of doubt the lads. They look absolutely fantastic. But I think it's kind of interesting to see, like, obviously with, like, Perks being gone from Heretics, what the hell they're going to look like, what that change is going to really mean. Like, with Adam, I don't know what the story is with him on BDS. Like, is he going to be coming back in for the main top lane? Yamada's got a big grin on his face. It's like, I think there's a huge amount of, like, mix-ups that still have to wait and see what's going to happen. So, I don't know. Like, it just feels like it's pure chaos coming in from winter to spring. And I really don't know where we're going to land apart from, well, the teams that are already kind of locked in, or like teams like G2, we're like, okay, I have a good idea of where they stand. But apart from that, I don't know. What about yourself, Yamato, since you're grinning at me? It's like, it feels like there's so much chaos coming in from winter to spring.
No, the Adam story just kind of cracks me up. I think it was like my opinion on that thing, just to get it out of the way. I think it was so strange because it's like both the decisions around Perks and Adam, they come across as so, let's say, amateurish, at least with the information that is released. Maybe the new information will make me think otherwise. But the Adam situation was so confusing because they mentioned that it was there was a trend in terms of his behavior. And then if you see it coming from miles away, why do you take the decision so close to potentially a very important best of 5? Like, they have aspirations to do good in winter, I imagine, unless they don't believe that it's significant. And then they make this decision, and then they could patch it up, just a conversation, and then they move on. Couldn't they have done that in preparation for that best of 5 then, if it was such a simple solution? I appreciate that, like, a coach can take the decision to bench a very important player, but to do so close, like, to the best of 5 is going to decide the winner
in the split, yeah.
It's like the rumors of the behavior within the team. It's like, sure, it's like things heat up. Players are under pressure. Emotions run very, very high. The closer you are to your final game of a split, the more intense it's going to be. And in my mind, I think in those moments, you need to be able to diffuse it coming into a very important best of 5, because even though BDS came close to beating Mad It like some of the players didn't look like it didn't look like they had the same, let's say, spirit, which makes sense when you lose a player so close to goes that best of 5. So that entire thing is strange to me because it seems as if Adam is going to play for BDS, and for BDS I'm happy because it's important, but the whole situation is just strange to me. I don't know what you guys think.
I'm kind of in the same boat, especially when he's been there for so long. It's like, like you've invested in BDS for what,
Oh.
2 and a bit years at this stage, where you're like, okay, this is a roster. You kind of understand how they all slot together, and then to finally just at last second pull them out just seems bizarre to me. And I don't know how you expect a team to function in that way. Like, look, you pull in a substitute, and to be fair, he did his best. He did what he could, but let's be real, you're never going to be able to replicate what Adam does on
No.
that roster. And even the way he kind of like tries to control the top side of the map from the lead he has. So to expect a team to then slot in and go, yeah, this is going to be totally fine, when I think Adam is such a unique player and brings a lot to that team, it just seemed bizarre to me to like, I mean, essentially like cut your heels before you went into it and just go, cool, now go run the marathon. Like, what do you expect to happen? I don't know. The whole thing just seemed bizarre. And I do agree, if he's been on the team for this long, you know what Adam's like. You know what he's like as a player. So why did it take you up until playoffs to suddenly go, yeah, this is the step too far?
I think on top of that as well, like you say, Adam's such a difficult player to replicate in terms of style that you bring into the table, but also like in terms of, I mean, maybe this doesn't matter as much in terms of playoffs, but like as a brand, like in my mind, as kind of like, you know, I'm somewhat of an outsider when it comes to LEC. I'm kind of looking on in. When I think BDS, I think of Adam. You know, Adam is the first thing that comes to my mind when I think of BDS. So even if it's like, I mean, obviously, you know, you got to make changes when things aren't working, et cetera, but just from the like Twitter perspective, like it looks fucking weird that Adam's not on that roster, and then obviously like it doesn't work out in the series, and like you say, the timing's off. But even just from the perspective of like when you're making changes to the roster, I wouldn't like what's your guys' perspective on like brand and how valuable that is to a team? Like, would you consider having a potentially problematic player if their brand is like, let's say someone like a Reckless, right? I'm not saying that Reckless is problematic, but if you've got a brand like that, like how valuable is that to your team versus, you know, actually having a player that works with the team?
I would probably say the short answer is probably the results, right? Like how well the team ends up doing, even if they're kind of problematic, how does it feel to work with them in the environment at the end of the day? And I guess it also kind of depends on what their problems are. There's a lot of variables to the question when you really think about it. I would say a player like Adam, at least like outwardly when we had him on the broadcast and such as well, he very clearly, at least to us, it seemed like he'd matured a lot over the last 2 years since his time off Fnatic as well. So I think for a lot of people, that was probably the bigger shocker when the news broke a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, I would say it really does. I would say the biggest answer is basically just the results. I'm not sure how, you know, Yamato coming just off of being in competition again, you know, you would feel like having a player. I mean, you've worked with Adam in the past as well, right? So I would say you probably have a clearer answer as well on something like that.
I think in regards to the branding, I think your position within the team on a performance side shouldn't be impacted by it at all. I think the only thing it should really impact is the number that is coming every month on your paycheck. Like in terms of your branding, it's like on the performance side, as a coach, I can't use fucking branding for shit. And sometimes it can even have like a negative effect in regards to, let's say how important someone views himself within an environment where egos run high, right? And I think on the topic of Adam, I think when I worked with him, he was very young, and I think that like he went through things that were quite like immature at the time, but it's like you know, and with the whole situation that went down, but this was him, you know, having such continued success with everything that he basically touched, right? It's like LFL 2 dominated, LFL 1 won, EMA Masters won, and then all of a sudden he joins Fnatic, right? It's like, it was like a fucking rocket ship to the moon, you know, like some shitty altcoin that some people invest in because it's a meme, right? It's like he went to the moon, he went to the World Championship, you know, everything that he did kind of worked. So I understand how for someone young that can inflate one's ego. But over time, it seemed like he matured. And I think that in regards to what went down in BDS, obviously I don't have all the details, so I don't want to judge. I am just judging based off of the information that they revealed from the outside. And that's the part that is confusing to me, because you kind of wish that, for the sake of the team, for the sake of the players, that you can piece it together in such a crucial moment in time, because, of course, passion runs high. It's like when you get closer and closer to the end, you get to see people's character, and you'd imagine that, especially with Striker and Adam working together for so long, that this was something that they could have pinpointed, of course, earlier on in the season. And maybe what happened is for the better, and I'm sure that they will frame it that way through their own perspective in terms of how the team functions. But I think the bottom line is there was mistakes that occurred before the climax of that situation occurred, right? And I think that is where there's potentially a bigger lesson.
Yeah, I think as well for this team, like, if it is that Adam is so disruptive, I don't think it's a bad idea to get rid of him. It just, as Yamato says, I think it's weird that it took so long for them to spot it out. But from like going back to the branding thing, I think the BDS is one of the teams that I think are at least trying to create a brand for themselves that is like, hey, we are invested in this team. We are a team that are going to grow together, and we're going to have these guys that are going to do all the wonky intros together to show the characteristics of the players. But like, they're kind of one of the teams that has that like almost G2 feel to it, which is like, this is our guys and this is our family, and these are the guys that we're going to build up and grow with. Which I think they've been doing a good job of this split. So that's why I think it feels like such a shock to see it on the opposite side of like, oh, and now there's like disruption in it. And when they have been very much invested in what it feels like these players, like obviously Crownie stepped out and Ice has come in, but like the core four are still there. But I do think it's at the end of the day, the better call if Adam is a massive disruption like that, to be like, hey, look, we're going to take you out. No one's bigger than the team. And if it ends up working out that, look, we fall apart, but look, at least we did it on our own terms. But I do think it kind of touches on like how big is Adam versus BDS, because I think at the end of the day, I think BDS from a branding perspective have to show, hey, like, we are a team that does not care. We're invested in ourselves. We're going to grow, and we're going to separate ourselves from just the players at the heart of it. Because I think that's something that a lot of teams do poorly, is that they go, hey, look, we have the Reckless, we have the big player, we have the name that you should pay attention to. And as soon as that player leaves, every fan goes, well, I'm a Reckless fan, so I'm not interested in your team anymore. I'm going to go wherever Reckless goes. So I think the fact that BDS have kind of like put effort into creating a brand for themselves is actually something that I do like to see. It's just kind of heartbreaking that the family image nearly that they tried to portray, or like we're like we're the underdogs, the group of lads that are going to come in, have fun, joke about, and like kind of have that fun side to us. Now we kind of get a peek behind the curtain and see this not all sunshine and rainbows. So I think that's kind of the heartbreaking side, is that like it kind of feels like it hits on both the competitive aspect of it, but also from a branding perspective as well.
You feel betrayed by your homies, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I feel like they've really cut you deep there, Rob. It's
You're
tugging at my heartstrings.
It did take 3 nights of crying to finally be able to take Adam's poster off my wall, but we got there, you know.
Oh man, that's content waiting to happen. That is content waiting to happen. Can't wait for that video to come out.
Don't let Carsey see.
So let's move on from BDS as well. Looking at the other so obviously, Rob, you came in pretty strong saying, G2 are going to win spring as well. But I think that, Mad Lions, a lot of cool stuff to look at there. Teams like Fnatic and SK, like ups and downs across the course of winter. Like, where do we sit in terms of looking towards these teams? Do you think that there's been certain teams that have shown enough good stuff that looking towards spring you're excited for them? Is it just kind of the list of how they placed in the LEC in winter that you're looking at? Or do you guys have some different perspectives on who you think might be strong coming into spring?
I
think it's hard. Questions too specific.
Yeah, no, I think it's hard because, like,
okay,
I think the only maybe Yamato wants to step out of the convo, but the only team that I was like interested in was Carmine Corp. Because I like at the last 2 weeks, I was like, oh shit, the lads have actually pulled it together. Like they were the last 2 days, I should say, because they were like beating teams that I was like, they actually look like they're on the same page. Like this was a team that could take the early leads that they're able to get and actually capitalize on them. And that's why I kind of felt like this was the team that I was like, oh shit, now that they're gonna have more time to practice, work together, and grow, I actually expect much more from them coming into spring, which I think is kind of what I expected already. Like even when you look back at like Euphoria first podcast that we did for the year, I was like, this is a team that I'm not throwing high expectations of initially, but I do think when you've got like, well, I was going to say Yamato Stake and the lads all in the background, this is a team that is going to flourish as the year goes on. So I still think like I'm still looking forward to seeing what Carmine Corp are capable of coming in now. And I'm hoping that they're able to kind of hold on to some of that magic that we got to see towards the end of the split. But outside of that, yeah, I mean, like Heretics, I think losing Perks is going to hurt. I think Perks definitely did fumble the ball a lot of the times when it came to big decisive moments. But I think losing a voice like that, regardless, and like someone who can provide that veterancy is always going to be hard to see go. But I'm hoping that Zwairu can do great. Like I think you've already got a lot of talent around him that can do fantastic. And then obviously, I think Trimby is supposed to be coming in, isn't it, to the bot lane as well? So I think that, excuse me, sorry, is going to be a team that I'm very much keeping my eyes on to see if they can turn around, because this was the team that I had high expectations of from winter, but they just never really mounted up to them coming into to the season at all.
Yeah. No, I'm kind of in the same boat, because for me, even though I feel like Perks definitely fumbled a lot, to put it politely, as you said, would I have benched him immediately if I was the manager after winter? Probably not. I think I still would have waited until maybe at some point in spring if the performances kind of stayed at some kind of like fluctuating level, right? But yeah, at least for me, away from Heretics, I'm kind of curious about 2 teams. I'm curious about Mad, because I want to know if they're gonna stay at the same kind of elevating level that they're at, and whether or not the time between winter and spring has allowed the other teams to kind of catch up in team play. Because you still have to remember, even though El Yoya is kind of, outwardly kind of captaining the team and what have you, the core of that team that came in was still playing for an entire year beforehand. And anyone that's been a player or been a coach will tell you how important experience together is. Whereas a lot of rosters did kind of start from nearly scratch, right? So I think that definitely helped them out in the long run. So I'm curious about Matt's performance relative to everyone else, right? As we've now had a little bit more time, a lot of teams coming into winter, there wasn't a lot of time to scrim, from what I kind of understood, for a lot of teams. So that's what I'm looking at. And then SK, because SK came in so strong and then seemingly had a very, very hard fall off. So I want to know what happens there with SK, and whether or not, or what issues they identify as big problems that they actually end up fixing for spring, and hopefully progressing a little bit further into the split.
I think for me, SK were the biggest disappointment. Like as a, again, outsider looking in kind of thing, I was really hyped on SK at the start of the split. Like I was really loving watching their games. I feel like they were really proactive, and then I kind of missed a couple of weeks of LEC, and then the next time, like, it was all sunshine and rainbows. The children are playing, like everyone's happy. There's people cheering and singing and dancing. I turn around a couple of weeks in LPL. I turn it back and look at LEC, and everything is on fire. It was like an absolute disaster, and it seemed like it kind of flipped pretty quickly. I really wonder what happened. Like, I feel like when things go wrong in that way, I feel like there's got to be something going on within the team outside of just gameplay,
I still will say, finishing 5th, considering not a lot of people had basically really many expectations of the roster, other than Irrelevant had a pretty good looking back end of 2023, and Niski tends to bring teams around him together quite nicely. So finishing 5th is still pretty respectable in my opinion. It's just that they had such a high like ceiling start to then only find a result of 5th. I guess just kind of probably feels very disappointing for them, and maybe fans as well.
I think to follow up on SK, I think something that any team wrestles with is like figuring out really where you want to place yourself in the meta. I think there was a lot of champions that the bot lane didn't play. Like Senna stands out as something, Barrow stands out as something. I think also Isma is a jungler that I think he found a lot of success by being very active level 2, 3, even level 1 in a lot of games. And I think after some time, a pattern was established. And I think when he didn't create the same advantages as he did early on, I think that SK became a lot more figured out. I think just to follow up on a different team, sorry for moving the conversation to a different team, but I wanted to bounce off Mad Lions as well. I think Mad Lions, I would still think that they would be the second best team coming into spring, because I think a lot of the nuance of how they play the early game, how they connect with the jungle and support, how they fight together, and also how they play mid to late game in terms of recognizing their tempo swings and tempo advantages is something that I think is very, very tough to learn, because I think it's honest League of Legends. I don't think it's something that you can maybe remind your players of, but you're basically reminding your players of, oh, these are good things that they are doing and they do them well. Sometimes when you tell that to your players, it's like, what should we do with that? So, okay, they play good. Thank you very much. Yeah, I think there's definitely, I think Mirwin was a player that showed a lot of positive sides. I think Alvaro as well. I think there's conversations about him being like some people are putting him even the best performing support, because Mickey underperformed quite heavily if you compare it to the usual Mickey standard. Not that I'm worried about Mickey, but he definitely had his moments. I'm quite excited for Mad Lions. I agree with the notion that coming in as a team and like as a group of guys that has experience by playing together in the previous year is something that can be very, very impactful. In my own personal experience, when we brought together 2018 Vitality, we basically brought in 4 players that had worked together in Giants then in the LVP, and they won things and they had a lot of success, and carrying that momentum over to, of course, the spring split. There were a lot of things that were a lot easier to figure out from the get-go. And I think that when you snowball that into positive momentum, I think it's becomes very difficult for other teams to really catch on. And I think that what's nice about Mad Lions and refreshing about them, I feel like they are the league's southpaw. I think that you practicing against Mad and playing against Mad is very different from the other teams that are modeled somewhat similarly, I would say. And I think that also is a great advantage, because some of the early games that they had were really, really phenomenal. The gank angles that they took and how they connect with jungle and pressure your jungle. There is very little teams that do that consistently in Europe.
I always appreciate teams that have a unique style in that way as well, even if it's whether it's like early game pressure or whether it's just like some kind of weird picks that they go for. I'm always a big fan of teams that separate themselves from the pack in that way. I'm curious, I want to bounce off of, you're talking about coaching these different teams and like advantages that you've had. I wanted to ask, I don't know if this has been asked to you on a podcast before or anything like that, but obviously you went over to LCK for a little bit and did some coaching over there. I wanted to just ask, like, what were the big differences that you found between like coaching in Korea versus coaching in Europe, or maybe between different rosters in Europe? Like, how do different teams differ from your perspective when it comes to your approach to coaching and how players respond to you, how organizations respond to you in regards to the different regions and the different organizations?
So when I was over in Sandbox, I think the key differences is culturally everyone's very, very aligned, obviously, because all the players come from the same country, and there are certain rules, like social rules, that are in place that are very beneficial for a competitive team. I think naturally I instantly get the impression from Korean players that they think about the group more so than the individual. I think that how age functions as a kind of, let's say, vessel for the relationships between the players, where the older players take care of the younger players and the younger players show a deeper respect. As like the idea of a brotherhood is very, very easily like put in place, I would say. And it was very, very clear because we all lived in the same like penthouse floor. We all spent time together. We shared all our meals together. This was something that you wish to always recreate in a team environment, but sometimes it can be a lot more difficult. But I think this is something that is in place in regards to like my personal experience and also from the conversations I've had with, of course, Korean players that I've worked in other rosters, right? Additionally, I think that the standard for what it means to be a pro player is so high. The condition that players bring to scrims in terms of what they do in solo queue, in terms of what VODs they watch, in terms of the effort that they put, the standard is so obviously high because the players, in most cases, take great risks to actually become professional players. The competition is very harsh, and you are being watched as a hawk. You know, like you're being watched, and the standard, you're not allowed to slip. So that standard is always in place, and the energy that you have in the room when you walk in, it's very infectious. It's like I had 15 players in total. I had a academy team, and then I had a challenges team, and then of course the main roster. And in the penthouse floor where we worked, we had the 10 players, and then the 5 additional coaches and me working together by side, basically in 2 very large rooms. And how the keyboards were clicking, the conversations that were occurring, the energy in the room made it very easy to work all the way till 3 a.m. And I think if anyone is in that room and fucks around, you'll feel like a piece of shit. You know, you'll really feel like a piece of shit. And I think often there's cases where you pull certain players from environments like that where they're being taken care of by older players and where they have that pressure to always fulfill themselves to that standard. This is where sometimes some imports don't have the same amount of success in North America or of course Europe, because they thrive in that specific environment. And these things that I mentioned in terms of the standard and the brotherhood, these are things that you always work very hard to achieve. But I would say the negative side, the worst side, was that there were definitely cases where I had an idea and players would disagree with it, but they would just roll with the punches anyway, just because I said this is what we should do. So the issue that we had was T1. T1 was an issue, naturally. T1 was a fucking problem. We never won against T1 in scrims. We never won against them on stage. They were a fucking tough team for us to beat because they had a very high standard. There was very little variance in their play. And I was like, okay, we're going to do this thing. We'll play Sona, Tarek, Hekarim, and we're going to break their ankles by doing something that is out of the ordinary. And we were practicing it. And the players showed some level of reluctance, but they went along with it. I felt like they understood the idea of what I wanted to achieve. After the game, I could see how defeated they were. And I really had to pry open my translator ran out of words, you know? I really had to push them to really speak their mind. And then finally, someone said, yeah, I thought this was fucking shit in the first place. And regardless of if it was shit or not, the buy-in needs to be true. And I think it kind of speaks to maybe an older view of what Korean League of Legends used to be, where everything is like systematic. You play the same champions over and over again. And this was, of course, the time where Damwon took a lot of ideas from how G2 were doing things and applied it to how they approached the game. Because when we scrimmed them, they were very loose. They picked whatever the fuck they wanted. And when we played them on stage, they threw like Pantheon support. We were the victims of the first time Pantheon support. And we got smacked on the forehead. Barrel just flashing on our mid lane at level 2, and we just got fucked because Showmaker's playing Kassadin, and we just they were very loose, and they were all very free in their approach. And this was like just at the time where the LCK needed to go through this revolution because the previous years were, of course, not good. 2018, 2019. So I was there at a time where I think maybe one player was willing to speak their mind, and the others were very reserved and just doing what they were told, right? So this was the challenge, because in Europe it's the opposite. Everyone has opinions. Everyone wants to fucking decide everything, and you have to work very hard to find a way where you piece together all of these cultures. Because I mentioned vitality. I had one Portuguese, one Italian, one French, one Polish, and finally one German with Turkish background, right? And then me from Sweden, Palestinian background, Polish background. You know, it's like in the beginning, I didn't understand these fucking accents at all. But then we had to piece it together somehow because the dynamic was very crucial. And of course, there's a benefit in that, because if you manage to piece it together, all of these ideas, you kind of figure, you kind of make this abomination, this kind of Frankenstein of multiple ideas, and somehow that becomes like an enforced identity. So there was like positives and negatives to that thing. But I remind you guys that my experience is 2020. I think in Korea, there's been kind of a change up in how they approach the game in terms of the looseness because of what went down 2019, of course.
Do you feel like you got close to like creating Frankenstein's monster? Like, do you feel like it was nearly there ever, or do you feel like it's because I can imagine like trying to instill, I suppose respect is the wrong word, but trying to create a culture where you feel open to one, sharing your ideas, but two, also as a young person being like, oh yeah, I can take the criticism that comes with me opening up, and then someone going, that's a terrible idea, mate. Why? I think that is tough. Whereas I think if there is that culture of, hey, I respect the person above, it's kind of more accepted when you're told no, essentially. So do you ever feel like you got close to unraveling that mystery? Because it feels like obviously that would be kind of, maybe that is the core to League of Legends, is like actually figuring out how you can get five guys to agree and criticize each other without anyone feeling butthurt at the end of the day. But it feels like that would nearly be yeah, I suppose it's like, did you find any ways to start that conversation or start to create that culture?
I think in Korea it was difficult. It did feel nice to just say shit and it to be
Get it
done.
done.
Honestly, that shit was fun. It's like Summit,
It's like
I want you to play
cracking the whip.
GP. He's like, okay. It's like, yeah, Summit, I want you to play GP. Summit, I want you to buy this item. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Fleek, on Fleek, what are you doing? I need you to cut this shit. I need you to do this. Okay. Like that part was very, very nice, right? But when you're competing in a game that is evolving, I think it's very important that you have as many minds as possible challenging the ideas. Because in the end, it's like if someone has a shit idea, if they carry that idea and don't share it with anyone, it's like he's going to believe it. Like it needs to be in the open. And if it's a shit idea, it needs to be told that it's a shit idea. Because this is also a crucial part, right? Like whether it's a good idea or a bad idea, any idea needs to be shared. Because if you're thinking that on your own and you think everyone around you is just a moron for not figuring out what you figured out, you're not going to raise your own personal ceiling of knowledge to match everyone else in the team. Because the most disappointing thing is if you know something and you can't find a way to raise the knowledge ceiling of everyone in the team to that point where you have an edge. Because in the end, it's like League of Legends is a game where if you make a decision, you need to trust that everyone understands your decision, because otherwise you can look like a buffoon if you make the perfect play and then two players are like, fuck you, man. I want to do Raptors. And then you just look like an idiot.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of teams in LPL actually that are struggling with precisely that issue right now. There are so many teams in LPL where you got two players doing one thing and the rest of the team just like fucking sat in a brush with a thumb up their ass. Like RNG is the biggest.
I don't know what's going on with them.
Every time I watch RNG, I fucking, it drives me insane. This team does nothing, man. Like, and they've actually today they actually had a couple of good drafts where I feel like the idea was there, and then they get on the server and they've got like a plan for the first 3 minutes of the game, and beyond that, fucking hands off of the wheel, baby. Just like, let's just see where we roll. Like, I don't know.
That's rogue for me, man. Every time, and I feel like I'm watching like the Ship of Theseus at this stage, where it's like, how many parts can we plug out of Rogue until we don't get Rogue anymore? But it's still the team that won't fucking do anything. And every time I'm watching them, just like, come on, lads, just like with a stick. It's like, please, please, you've got like the opportunity to play early game. Let's go and do something. And like, I don't know what it is, because clearly it's not like just an individual player that this is resting on, because it's it's been so many different iterations where the problems are still all the same, but it just drives me fucking insane. Where I'm just sitting there the entire time, like, all right, well, if I'm casting Rogue, I'm like, gonna bring up my cup of tea. I'm in this for the long haul. I'm gonna be like, you know what? We're gonna make this an event. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like there are these teams that just like haven't figured out exactly how they want to approach the game. And then it does make it painfully obvious because they just end up in this choice paralysis where you obviously have 2 or 3 people are saying do 4 or 5 different things, and they're like, well, we could do dragon, or we could drop dragon, and we could go and like trade it for cross mapper for Rift Herald or for top tier 2 or whatever the hell they want to do. And then 99% of the time you have them just, I think, was it you who had window shopping? Was it you who came up with that term? You know, because that was such a good way. It's like they just window shop every objective and they just look through it and just go, yeah, like that looks nice. I'm glad you can have it. And then they just don't do anything else on the map. It drives me nuts. Yeah.
That's a great phrase. It's kind of like, it's like when you're gonna order takeaway, you know, and you're there, you're with your friends or your partner or whoever, and you're like, oh, should we get takeaway? Yeah. What do you want? Oh, I don't know. I'm kind of easy. What do you fancy? Oh, yeah, I could go with whatever. I could have this, but maybe that. Like nobody's willing to make a decision. I feel like there are so many teams in League of Legends that do the exact same thing of just like.
Yeah, but the problem is that they still go back to the shitty Chinese in the corner that gave them diarrhea 2 weeks ago. But they're like, I don't know any other option, and they're just gonna go for it again. That's the problem I have with it.
Me with McDonald's in China, honestly. Like the amount of fucking McDonald's I ate in China just because I couldn't decide on anything else, and it's cheap as fuck. Honestly. Not that
my favorite thing, just a complete tangent here. My favorite thing about living with Munch in China was that Chinese delivery guys would ring him and be like, clearly in Chinese, I have your food. Munch wouldn't understand. This poor Chinese guy is just like, hey, I'm trying to give you your food, whatever. So Munch would just talk down the phone to them in English and go, yeah, it's terrible, isn't it? Just not all going to be able to store this. We're gonna have no idea how we're gonna figure this out. Like, instead of trying to like figure out any sort of issue,
what can I do?
Just speak back to them.
What can I fucking do? The guy's talking Mandarin to me. I haven't got a fucking clue what he's saying. He's got my address. What more can I give him? I'm not gonna fucking go roam the streets in search of this delivery driver. Like, really? What? They like what? Am I gonna just hang up on him? That's just rude. And they keep talking to me, so I'm gonna keep talking to them. So we chat away a bit. Yes, this is where you gotta. I'm just a friendly guy. Is that so?
Friendly?
So bad?
At least try.
I was trying.
At least try.
I was telling them where I live. I was telling them it's on the top. You know, it's the third building or whatever. They just don't understand me. What else can I do? You know, I don't know. It's out of my control. I forgot what we were talking about before now.
Fucking RNG, man.
Yeah.
Fucking RNG.
RNG really, it hurts to watch them, man. They are soulless. Like, they made TT today look like fucking so good. Just like TT's. And that is already a fucked up
just
sentence.
Do fucking nothing and pick Smolder. The dream.
It was so sad. I don't know, like, it's like LWX, it's like Ming coming back. I was kind of hyped for that, but it's like, looks soulless. LWX doesn't seem to be the same player. It's like, breathes sometimes, you know, has some moments, you know, but
I feel like Breathe has had a really rough split, honestly. Like, he's had a couple of good games, but on average, like, I know he's kind of elo held. I know that this is not a team that's doing well for him, but he's also had some real fucking stinkers. Like, he's had some games and some moments where he's really having to, which is hard to see because I'm an old school Breathe fan. You know, I was a big fan of this guy way back in the day, back when he was called Curse. You know, like, I want to see him succeed, and we've seen a bit of Gwen from him, which is exciting. But then it never feels like it's put in a position where it can succeed. You know, unless he literally 1v5s the fight, it feels like there's no real way for him to have that much of an impact. I don't know.
I think that's kind of the thing with Breed, though. Like, he has these moments where he looks fantastic. Like, even when he was on WE and stuff, you'd be like, oh yeah, like, he has these great Camille games. You're like, great, we're going to see Breed kind of pop off and do his thing. And then he kind of just has 3 games where he just sucks ass, and you're like, what happened? Like, how is this the same person? So I don't know. I think consistency is a big issue with him. And it's not even like it's against like particularly talented top laners. He will just have a bad day. So yeah, I never really know what to expect with Breathe, and that's why like every time I kind of look at like top laners in the LPL, I always find it hard to put him that high up the list because it's like if you get him on a good day, he will rival the best in the business. Like the guy's an absolute monster, but it's like maybe we get that 2 to 3% of the time, and then the other times you kind of get it pretty good, and then it's just you get so many of these below average games that I just never really know how to rate him properly. It's kind of heartbreaking.
It's weird, like Ale, you should know me, and Breathe. Yeah, like these are the 3 top lanes got fucked the hardest by the removal of Divine Sunderer. Like, Divine Sunderer being removed. It's like, fuck.
He was cracking on the iron for 3 years, man.
Just destroyed by Mythics. By Mythics alone. Fucking hell.
Shit, man. Fucking Ale trying to play fucking Jax.
Oh, God. I mean, I felt like that with Ala especially, there's so many, like that game, was it EDGWE, I think it was, where he was Jax versus Aatrox and Wayward's Aatrox. Is that a game that happened recently? Am I going crazy?
There's so many games that are kind of melting together.
Maybe it was RA actually, because it was very recent. Oh yeah, no, yeah, it was Xiaoshu's Aatrox. And like, so many times, Ala is like, all right, this time I've got the 1v1, boys. This time it's going to work out. And every single fucking time, the fucking Avengers assemble and like, Ala just dies on his own. And suddenly it's a fucking dog shit play for EDG. And like, it looks really good in the moment. It looks like he's got the 1v1. And then there's a TP or a Talia ult or whatever the fuck. And he just dies again. And it's like, God fucking damn.
I am curious if like Ala just feels though that he has to win the game solo by himself, because if he doesn't win in a side lane, Vampire will find a way to ruin the team fight. And maybe that's why it just feels like if he doesn't just completely annihilate his lane, they're just gonna fuck it up anyway. So he's just like, well, if I don't do it, we're gonna lose anyway, so I might as well.
Yeah. I mean,
I love Monkey, man.
Dude.
Holy, this is my favorite player of all time. Like, speaking of players that don't give a fuck about his team, like he's forcing his teammates into decisions. He's like that fucked up guy in the friend group. It's like, it's 2 a.m. We're at the bar having a good time. It's like, hey, let's go to a club. Let's go to this after party. Let's go,
he's
man.
He's the one that slams the 6 tequilas in front of you and goes, we're fucking going.
This guy's a nutcase. Like, I have like so many moments saved of Monkey. It's like, oh, everyone's backing off. And Monkey's like, starts hitting Nash. It's like, hitting Nash. It's like, Monkey, no. Monkey, we are leaving. It's like, Monkey just keeps hitting Nash. And it's like that fucking Anakin meme, It's like fucking just looks at his teammates, It's like fucking forcing their decisions. I fucking love Monkey.
I didn't realize until you started this that I needed David Attenborough voiceover of Monkey doing these things. Where it's like, the group has left, but Monkey feels the need to press on.
Yeah. My favorite like moment for Monkey today had some fucking moments. He had some fucking moments today. But when the bit where they're at fucking Banana opposite Baron, right? And he like cues or he like ward hops over the wall, misses his cue, and goes, oh fuck, and then just flashes back over the wall again. It was like the most like, it was genuinely like a bit of like one of those fucking Chinese TikToks where it's all staged and like made to look daft. It's just like, what the fuck are we doing, man? Like, and then he has like crazy plays in the game as well, but I don't know. Monkey's hilarious. EDG actually look better over the last couple of series. I've been mildly impressed. Maybe my expectations are just in the fucking gutter now, but they took a game off of IG that looked like absolute shit. I'll take that. IG beat BLG, guys. Remember?
Yeah.
That's all I got. That's all I got.
Yeah.
I want to slightly segue. We can come back to LPL. There was a question in chat aimed towards you, Jamada, but I think everyone as well, asking about how people keep up with meta builds and stuff pros play on stage. One example was Azir with Grasp. Do you guys track OTPs? Do you like look at solo queue a lot, like figure out what's popular? Also, is that included in your job, or do you do it on your free time? I can answer for everyone. We ain't paid for that shit, I'll tell you that. Yeah. And then he says, I always feel like Jamada has insightful info on the desk, and I'm not sure how they keep track of all the regions and OTPs. So I want to kick it over to you first, Jamada, since
Sure.
it's sort of directed to you.
I play the game a lot still. So that helps with the build
Let's
stuff
go.
for sure.
Based.
Lads, it's miserable sometimes. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, but look, the knowledge gain from seeing weird OTPs in solo queue, like anywhere between Diamond 2 and Master, is kind of useful. Like you see some weird shit, you're like, huh, that looks not that bad. And then randomly pros start picking, you're like, oh, that guy was cooking, he was onto something. It happens a lot. As for like, I don't know. If anything, we should be talking to Yamaha about keeping up with all the regions. This guy co-streams every single region, regardless of what he's doing. I don't know how you get enough sleep in a 24-hour period.
I don't.
But yeah, for me, I'm a very hands-on kind of person with League. Like I need to be playing it to feel like I'm keeping up with a lot of the in-game interactions and how champions work with different items and what items are generally strong. But obviously, if playing the game, 4 or 5 hours a day is not your thing, you pretty much always have access to just being able to reach out to coaches, to players, and just be like, hey, what's this like? What is XYZ champion like? There's loads of resources online where you can find OTP lists of certain champions. And honestly, if you are interested in learning about a champion, go and reach out to some random guy who's sitting in GM with like 600 games on that champion each season. I promise you, he's going to give you an essay about basically every single scenario that you could ever need to know about that champion. Yeah, there's just loads of small ways that you wouldn't really think of at first. Like, for example, reaching out to OTPs themselves. That will keep you in the loop with a lot of, often out there champions that occasionally will rear their head into pro play. And then you feel really happy and prepared when they actually do show up because you know how to talk about them.
No,
I also find looking at u.gg and stuff every so often, because I'll do it for like, if I'm leading into playoffs specifically, I do it a lot. It's like, hey, I'm going to be casting G2 this week. Cool. Let me look through G2's solo queue match history and see what they're playing. And then you see Caps is on some weird shit or Mickey's on some weird shit. And I'm like, okay, let me look at this. So like, I think I messaged, actually, I think it was the LPO group chat like a little while ago, because I like randomly started looking at On's match history to see what he was up to. And he was playing this Blood Song Camille support. And I was like lethality build. And I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna go and look into that and see what it is. Now, never came up in pro play, but I was like, it's kind of stuff like that is kind of how I can find. I'm so ready for
not only should it will. Like this is not a like, oh my god, I hope it pops up in this. Be ready. I'm sure there will be at least 2 to 3 psychopaths in the LEC who are gonna have it. Mickey will do it. Hillasang will probably do it. As for the LPL, it's the LPL. I know there's been quite
got nothing to lose.
Like that's what I'm saying. And I've been told as a now outsider, I guess, to the LPL, even though I do my best to keep up, that the LPL has had a couple of snooze games. Once Camille comes into meta as a support, I promise you the games are going to get way more hectic. Those level 3 invades onto like blue side quadrant red teams it's just going to be a complete fiesta 24/7. I actually have very little doubt that it's not going to turn out like that.
So can I just probe you a little bit more? Weird choice of words there, but
No,
I want to probe you, Jamada.
Yes.
Talk to me about the Camille support a little bit. Like, what is so from what I've heard, it's like really good with Lucian specifically. But like, I'd love to hear your thoughts on like why is this good? Where is it good in a draft? Like, why would you pick this? Why is it going to be better?
Seemingly, it's from what I've delved into, which admittedly is still not even really that deep. It only really loses like really hard to Maokai. And everyone loses to Maokai, so that's not really a big deal. And really, it's just about the hookshot setup. And then once you hit level 6, there's that. The skirmishing power of Hail of Blades early game is really, really potent. The synergy with Lucian is that obviously Lucian had his passive change so that it's not about him solely being enchanted anymore. It's hard CC happening around him will give him the, I think it's called Ardent Blaze, the extra magic damage on his autos. So if she lands her hookshot onto the champion, he then gets empowered, and there's just a bunch of extra burst damage. And like I said, it's Hail of Blade plus auto attack reset, and generally the hookshot range is just really hard to get away from. you can travel almost a full screen away with that singular ability. Plus just the general lockdown once level 6 is a thing. Blood Song is also really, really, really silly still. And then she's going things like not Divine Sundra, the new Sundered Sky item.
Aloe wishes.
Aloe wishes. It was Divine Sundra. So there's just a lot of upfront burst as well as setup that kind of just makes her a very, very powerful skirmisher that even though you have supports like Nautilus and Rel that do specialize kind of in what she does it whilst also providing a fair amount of damage as well. In the early game in comparison to those picks. Is Nautilus probably way easier to execute? Yes. Is something like Rel probably easier to execute? Yes. But Camille still offers basically, it's like the same flavor, but there's a different flavor of sprinkles on the top. And this one is very, very fun to witness. So I'm looking forward to it. The synergy mainly is with that Lucian pick, but honestly, it looks strong enough that you can kind of run it with just about any like sort of lane bully or lane dominant focused AD and get away with it. And even if you don't want to do that, you can run something super passive and just have Camille roam around with the jungler because her engage range is so long. Just have her play kind of a setup for your carry jungler if that's what you kind of want to play through.
I talked to one or two lads, and they were saying that they it's collapse in lane phase, and you're like, I feel like a god. And the second you get a lane phase, you're like, I do fucking nothing.
Oh yeah, you are
so squishy. You do nothing.
You are objectively a worse solo lane Camille, but it's a lot of dopamine winning your lane and then pressing E and pressing R on the AD carry and just praying that the rest of your team follows up. So, we'll see. I still think teams are, and specifically support players, I feel like they don't often get such a weird and fun champ to play like Camille. They are kind of typically tied down to either one of 3 engaged champions or whatever enchanters happen to be meta. So I'm sure there'll be some internal pushes to try and free the Camille onto the Rift and try and make some games a little bit more exciting for themselves.
The only thing I would add to like the question that was asked, I'm also hyped for Camille. I think Camille is fucking cool. Like back in 2016, we were actually playing Camille support when it was released because like it was like a triangle of like Shen, Rengar, why am I going on this tangent about fucking meta in 2016?
That's what this is for. That's what this is for, man.
We played Camille support because it's like Camille was Giga OP top, but Camille support, it's like the duration of the ult was 1 second longer. Like it was ridiculous. It was 1 second longer
at level 6, right? So you just couldn't
basically you vie on crack and any other drug that you can put your hand to. It's like it was really, really good. Invited like Shen counter into this one, and then we just play GP into Shen, whatever the fuck. Nevertheless, I think Camille support, great. I love it. Base stats designed for top lane. Put that in a bot lane, and you have a mess of a fucking design project. Good luck, freak. What I would add to the question is, I think what's important to keep up is first you have to accept that you're not going to keep up with everything. There's going to be things like you need to be like, sometimes you watch something real time and it's very okay to be like, wow, this is the first time I see this. I have a theory about how it's going to go. Oh, look at that. He's actually doing this. Oh, he's buying Frozen Heart on Alzir. What the fuck? Okay. It's like learning about something real time is perfectly fine. I think that's cool. I think that the main thing I think that all of us do in our own way is that we kind of put our hand out just to wait for the rain, right? It's like we engage with League, and sometimes it appears, sometimes it doesn't, and I think it's just kind of one of those things. It's like there's this thing called the War of Art. It's like a book, so often cited as like how do you become a better writer? How do you inject creativity yourself? And the main point is that you should sit with a blank piece of paper and do nothing and allow the muse to come to you. And sometimes the only thing that you need to do to keep up with the meta is just engage with the game, whether it's watching pro play, watching solo queue, looking at ob.gg. Lolalytics is a fucking great resource for that too. Just engage with League and you see the trends, they begin to appear. And sometimes you get the little niche little tickler there. I was like, ooh, this is interesting. Maybe I have something here that I can make my thing and convince others of. And, maybe there's something here in this position. And like the Azir thing, it came out of like a solo queue top lane Azir that played, his name is Elderwood Azir in Korea. He played tank top. And some players, I know Burdul tried to recreate that. He lost against Zeus brutally, and no one ever picked it again because Zeus took a big dump on him. But maybe there was more there, but people were not bold enough to explore it further.
Yeah. And this is why the Shies played a Nivian Victor top. He was just exploring. It was a great experiment.
Yeah, if playing weird stuff is exploring, then the Shy is fucking Christopher Columbus, baby. That guy loves a weird pick. Actually, just while we're quickly on the topic, what the fuck is this Tankazir mid shit? Like, I've yet to see a solid angle where it actually looks good, aside from Yuakai getting the one double kill mid where he managed to survive long enough where he could pick a couple of people off. But like, I feel like almost all cases, aside from your team has no fucking hard engage, like almost all of the cases, I feel like just damage Azir is better. And maybe I'm just wrong and uneducated, but please educate me if that's the case.
It's the dopamine of hearing the grass proc off a soldier in lane, and not much more, I think. I'm always for creativity, and admittedly, I haven't actually peered at these Tankazir games just yet. I've been on kind of pro league hiatus until basically yesterday, so I don't know either. I'm maybe Dagda or Yamao have a little bit more of try to sell me this pen on the Azir, on the Tankazir, but yeah, I almost always feel like you would want your Azir dealing more damage than being an engage bot, unless there's like a Yasuo in the game or something really weird or kooky like that.
I think there's definitely cases where it's built wrong, where Azir needs to be the carry of the game. I think the efficiency of the tank items makes this build very attractive because it's very cheap. Yeah. It's like you every item that you base on is very, very strong, and in terms of how AD carries and also the other mages function, it's like in most games, it's like you're praying that the enemy doesn't buy a cloth armor, because if they do, you need to wait till 3 items to be useful, unless your name is one of the champions that always gets banned, like Senna. Or Smolder also waits, but in a more fun way for the Smolder player only. The Azir tank, I think it works well when, as you mentioned, I think when you need to be the one to force, when the enemy outranges you, I think you're very incentivized to do some shuffling. And also in cases where the enemy has really, really hard engage, it's like, you said, sell me this pen, I'll tell you, tank this violed. And and you say, oh, okay. Yeah. So it's in that direction, I would say.
Okay, I can see that. I can buy that. I'm picking up what you're putting down. So I suppose, unless anyone else has any other things they want to quickly hit while we're talking about like fucking meta and prep and stuff like that. No, speak now or forever hold your peace.
I was just laughing that we can have a Tankazir mid, but we can't have anything but AD carries bot,
Okay, yeah. Let's dig into that. Let's do the AD carry conversation. You know what? I'm not even going to intro it. Jamada, you fucking hate AD carries. Talk to me.
Look, man. I think AD carry players are okay. I actually had a very long rant about this earlier today, because I streamed my entire thoughts and it took 90 minutes to get it across.
Jesus Christ.
But there's a lot of different aspects to this. There's the design aspect of, okay, you have a role which realistically is not actually AD carry, it's bot lane, right? And we have had, the initial beginnings of bot lane, if we were to go to the beginning like it's the Bible, was like weird double bruiser shit, right? Until eventually, towards the end of season 1, someone was like, I think we should play an AD carry and like a utility champion, and that would probably be cool for competitive play. And then that kind of just became the community consensus of what you should do as a setup always, right? So now, fast forward all the way to right now, and by the way, it's funny because we've had metas in the past where objectively it was worse to play a crit AD carry than in some cases bruisers and mages in the bottom lane since season 1, and I'm talking as recent as basically like season 9, right, which obviously was still 5 years ago, but like at the end of the day, I think AD carries have just become very, very accustomed to playing the certain set of champions that we've had in the bottom lane for a very long time. And I think there's a mix of frustration because right now playing AD carry feels very bad because ADC by design has the least amount of agency within the first 15 to 20 minutes of the game. Agency being, if you're unfamiliar with the word, the ability to really have, you know, a grand amount of impact in changing outcomes of any given thing, right? Outside of those outliers who are designed in mind to actually have a lot of early game impact, think your Kalista, your Lucian, etc., etc. So you've got this massive compounded list of things that has built up a lot of player frustration from ADCs. And then also actually mages are just better. So I think there's a lot going on in the meta at the moment, which is why, to me, I think it's kind of goofy that AD carry players are so mad, because to me, from a non-AD carry player, you guys have been stuck playing Aphelios, Jinx, and like fucking Zeri for the last 3 years. God has given out his hand and said, here is an additional playstyle that you guys can run onto Summoner's Rift and gain some LP if that's your dig. And they're basically saying, no, I want to play Crit ADCs front to back only for the rest of my life. And I get it because it's a very niche playstyle. But frankly, if you play the broken stuff that is really oppressive, that only right now a small amount of people play, you will speed run to getting that nerfed, and the stuff that you actually like playing buffed. It's a pretty secret hack that you should probably abuse.
Yeah, dude. Freak is checking my OPGG. You're absolutely right.
But generally, like, not to bag on Freak, but if there's one valid criticism I do have of the balance team, is that sometimes I think they stick to statistics a little bit too aggressively, as opposed to eye testing and field testing, and, you know, kind of just how it feels to play against something. And I'll be honest, I think this is one of those situations where if they see Seraphine's pick rate rise to like anything more than 5% and it stays at 55% win rate, they will nerf the fuck out of it bot lane. They will find a way, that even if they just have to gut the champion. And the focus is very specifically on Seraphine because she's got the highest win rate in that slot. But there's a lot of other champions that you can play in that role that just simply aren't really mentioned. So yeah, I think it's a very complex issue, to keep my ramblings and rant as short as I can keep it. That is a mixture of player frustration, intended design, and then also kind of just the fact that it seems like ADs don't want to swap off of what they're very comfortable playing, because it is a pretty unique niche inside of League of Legends. They are the only role, because of kind of the community consensus of putting ADCs in the bottom lane, that hasn't aggressively had to adapt their playstyle over the years, basically on a anywhere from 3 to 6 month basis, right? Any other role in the game has to change how they play more or less once or twice a season, right? To some capacity or another. Whereas ADCs have pretty much, for a majority of League's lifespan, only really had to play marksman in one way or another. And obviously, again, there's been a couple of outlying seasons and such, but I think that also kind of plays into the frustration. So I think there's actually a lot more at play on like a philosophical level in terms of design as well. Outside of just, wow, crit ADCs are bad and mages are now good, I don't want to play this role anymore. I think there's a lot of compounded issues that play into why people feel the way they feel at the moment.
I would say that for the amount of complaining ADs have done over the years, they are very bad at it. I think the conversation is so poorly framed because basically it's like the issue with the game, right? Is that Riot tried to create balance on the map by introducing void grubs. And the issue that stems from that is that the fighting that occurred around the role that has less agency was more or less forced due to the existence of Dragon and its power in conjunction with Herald. Even in cases where teams set up for Herald, the main thing that was the most important is how you managed your bot wave, because if your AD could get dove when you played for Herald, it was never a thing that occurred. Hard swaps happened with support. Support reached 6. Support needed to be level 6 for that Herald. So it was very important that they stayed in lane, got the experience, and played the game, right? Now we're in this position where support is a very broken role because it can choose where it has impact. The price you need to pay for leaving lane has never been so low because the weight of what you can gain on the other side because of the existence of Void Grubs becomes very imbalanced. You take Void Grubs, and if you race for the enemy top tower, you're going to push and get more platings, while on the other side of the map, the support inherently needs to commit. I think there was a good example of World Elite play against Billy, right? There was Iwandi playing Bard. He was roaming and he had a Jhin, and that Jhin, like, he was behind on CS and partially he was irrelevant, but he just was a CC bot. And that was a big contribution to the game considering he didn't require any resources. And at one point, what happened was that On Nautilus was just matching Iwandi on everything that was happening on the map, on the 3v3s on top, the 3v3s on mid. And the World Elite managed to accrue a pretty decent advantage surrounding those objectives. So I think the issue is AD as a role. I think there are great champions to play. Like, there are champions that are insanely strong in the AD role. AD carries not wanting to play those and whining. Like, crit ADs are very, very weak. But on-hit ADs are fucking strong. Lethality is broken. Seraphine fucking wins a shit ton of games. There are definitely ADs to play, right? It's like Senna has been broken for fucking 4 patches straight. There's like lethality ADs in general doing really well, and then of course on-hit ADs are doing super, super well. Like, so you can check analytics every fucking split, in competitive, like every patch, every in competitive, the same thing. On-hit ADs are really strong. Lethality is super, super strong. You can adjust and play champions that are strong in the meta. The balancing nightmare that Riot has created with champions like Zeri, like Aphelios, like fucking Smolder now too. There's these ADs existing kind of ruins the potential of creating a, let's say, position where a lot of fucking champions are viable. But this is an issue that every role faces, and that should be like, okay, right? It's like, as new champions come in, it becomes goofier and goofier. It's like sometimes you buff one item and all of a sudden, oh, Zeri just is first pick, and now Yumi is back and pain in the ass, you know?
And I want to quickly chime in on that point as well, because the AD or the marksman role has the fewest amount of champions in any other position, basically. So that issue is even more accentuated because you're basically working with a much smaller pool compared to, well, every other role in the game. So yeah, sorry, I just wanted to add to that point.
Yeah. Like well. the main thing I wanted to just hammer home is I think that AD carries, I am happy in the game where bot lane is a role that thrives when they get gold. The agency that they lack should be kind of repaid in a way by them being benefited from getting attention. I think that the imbalance that was solved didn't at the same time address some champions top that are insanely strong with items that really just straight up like wrestle fuck these AD carry champs like K'Sante or Aatrox. Like, it's fucking Khabib versus, you know, some skinny guy on the street. You know, it's fucking, it's tough. It's definitely tough. But that was the solution to top lane being such an isolated role. So they got benefited from, you know, being strong and being resilient when they don't garner that attention. So I think you need to kind of maybe buff dragons again, because I think AD as a role with the lack of agency, I think it's good for the game we're fighting occurs around that role. Because now supports are just too OP because they can be everywhere. It's like all these supports like Bard, Maokai, Janna, they run rampant in solo queue due to this issue, right? And I think that inherently is the problem. Support is too powerful, which makes the AD role weaker because they are unimportant. But there's a lot of ADs to play. So I like complaining about not having ADs to play. Like that's bullshit, I think.
What it is I don't have any crit ADs that I can play that I've been playing for the last 3 years that happen to be front to back.
I like crit ADs.
Yeah.
What's wrong with crit ADs,
awesome.
man?
But do you know what the bizarre thing to me is that And Yabo said it really well. ADC players are very, very shit at complaining. Guys, it's been like 4 months since create ADCs were like, well, actually less because we're only 3 months or 2 and a bit months into new season and new items and such, hands on. It's basically just been that long since create ADCs have been like overly bad, right? Before then, they were, kind of, I would personally say balanced, and then before MSI and MSI itself, because we was in the Enchanter meta, and that's just kind of everyone played to give them extra resources. It felt like they were more powerful than they were because, well, if you funnel someone 10,000 gold in 20 minutes, shock surprise, they're gonna one shot everyone. So yeah, I mean the fact that it's not even been like a long period of time in terms of, and strictly just on the champions that the AD or the marksman role play specifically. It's not really been that long comparatively to what you would see meta stretch out in other roles for months and in some cases years. Certain champions have existed in particular roles and they've never really been kicked
Fancy
off their
some
throne or
Azir
kicked
or
out because-
Corki.
Yeah.
Oh, so I do think it's quite rich, but I do understand where the complaining is coming from.
Yeah.
And I think you would be pretty disingenuous to not hear some of the arguments made. But again, so many of them are made in such bad faith that it feels difficult to argue them in good faith in return.
Can I just say, as the 180 carry in the room, let me just say my little bit on this, because I don't feel massively strongly about this. I don't really have a problem with mages being playable, but I don't have a problem with the meta changing and people having to adapt. The one thing I will say is I am a creature of habit, and I have been playing Caitlyn and Ashe for going on 14 years now. I like playing Caitlyn and Ashe, and I like playing Jinx. I like playing the champions that I play, and I like playing with 2 supports like Leona and Nautilus, and I like playing in matchups that I actually have the ability to play in. I fucking hate it when I'm playing against Pyke Swain. I fucking hate it when I'm playing against these kill lanes. I fucking hate it when I'm playing against mage supports like fucking Xerath. I know that this is just random bullshit ranting, but I do understand where random players are coming from when the style that, because like you guys have said, all the other roles have changed regularly. ADC never fucking changes. So when you're so used to playing that way for a fucking decade, and then you're no longer really able to play that way, it fucking sucks, man.
See, that's I think the problem is. I think it's the fact that you're actually not. It's like ADCs have this fantasy of what they get to do in the game.
Yes.
Where they get to go, we will chill. I will sit behind my support. They will nurture me until I'm a good boy, and then I'll come alive in the mid to late game, and I'll take over the game, and then everyone will praise me, and I'll stand on the hill with my little trophy that says first in damage, and everyone will love me. And it's like, look, that is I think a niche that has been set up and kind of hammered home consistently by Riot. And I think that this is the first time that it's actually, well, not the first time, because we did have mages in the bot lane, but Riot kind of reprimanded themselves and went back and said, no, actually, we don't want Vladimir every single game in the bot lane or whatever the hell it was. So I do think Riot have kind of reinforced this idea of what a bot laner is. But I do think that there should be room to go, hey, you don't get to be the 6-item one-shot someone with a headshot Caitlyn at the later stage of the game every single game, right? I think there should be where Ziggs gets to every so often come down into the bot lane. I thought Ziggs being brought into meta was really, really cool. And he still fit the, hey, I'm going to DPS, but he is a very different style of champion. And I think then he warps the game to how a Ziggs wants to play. I think that makes things interesting. Teams can show what they're capable of. I don't think I think the thing that frustrates me when I look at a lot of the AD carries that are kind of like, I won't say it's too much like this split, but certainly in the last few years where it's like Jinx versus Aphelios. Okay, well, this is just an arms race. This isn't exactly exciting or you showing off how good you are. It's a case of, well, I got my Cole popped first, which meant I got Gale Force, which meant I hit that guy from further away, or I was able to get in close to hit that guy. I do slightly more damage when I'm close. So it's not exactly a exciting matchup. But if you're actually able to go, hey, look, we can instead not give a ton of resources to the bot lane. And as a team, we can then put resources elsewhere and play a different style of game. I think that makes things incredibly more interesting, not only from a players being able to bring out cool things as responses or answers to maybe an Aphelios or a Jinx or whatever the hell it might be, but also as a team to be able to go, hey, do you know what? this is actually a style that we can bring to this game where we're going to play around You Should Know Me in the top lane and make sure that he's able to pop off this game. And suddenly you've got to deal with a very different strategic setup than what you typically have. I think that makes the game more interesting. And I can understand from a regular player perspective of going, hey, look, I play this game. I get home at 7 in the evening. I crack open a beer and I just want to go in and I want to play my Caitlyn and my Ashe, whatever it is. But I do think at the top level, if you are a pro player or if you're someone who's able to play this at an incredibly high level and takes the game more seriously, well, then I really do think you kind of just have to sometimes take one for the team. And like, I'm a fucking support main. I love playing engaged supports. I love playing Alistair, Leona, Nautilus, Thresh, these kind of things where I can go and fucking be a playmaker. But every so often, I'm going to get fucked by a meta that tells me that I have to sit on Janna or Melio or Lulu and do fucking nothing this game and just shield someone. Like, that's not my fun game fantasy, but
Yeah.
that's how the game is played. And that's how it's like, that's the strongest. So I'll go and play it. Right. And I think that that's the issue that I have with the discussion is that, like, at the end of the day, if it's going to help you and your team, look, sometimes it sucks that you don't get your fantasy meta, but this is the strongest, and not everyone gets to play the game they want to play. Like, I'm sure Yike would wish Kha'Zix was meta and he could pop off on Kha'Zix, you know, like he was on Maokai duty for the entire year last year, right? And that's where these memes come from. People know that they don't want to do this, but the game is the way the game is, and sometimes you have to adapt if you want to be the best at this game or whatever style of game that it is at the moment.
Junglers have to do it every 6 months.
No, it's like jungle and top lane are the most resilient players. They rarely complain. It's like top lane has had a good time now because honestly, top lane is fun. There's like action. It's like, wow, my support is here for Void Grubs. I'm level 5. I get to be a part of this fight here. Wow, yeah, it's cool. It's like top laners and junglers have gotten fucked all the time. All the time. If you frame it through the boredom of what your decision making could be or your impact, it's like they have been shafted over and over again. And I think like looking at it from that perspective, because as you guys mentioned, for the longest time it was like AD carry was just an arms race. You were like looking, oh, this guy has 2.5 items, but this guy has 3 items. You know, there was like an aspect of that made things a lot more streamlined. But I think in terms of champions played, I think it should be perfectly okay for AD, for bot lane to be a dynamic position where the meta isn't like cookie cutter, right? At least when it comes to solo queue, because when it comes to competitive, I don't think the same thing kind of applies because people are playing Varus, people are playing Kalista. And also I think that the teams have a lot more of a deeper awareness of what the value of grubs are, because at least in solo queue, every game that I watch, like people drop everything, you know, like if someone's carrying like their toddler baby, it's like void grubs are spawning and they just toss it out the window, you know. It's like they need to be there, like no matter what. It's like when I jungle in solo queue, it's like I'm jungling, I'm like, I'm gonna path into bot and do Drake and dive bot. It's like my support's like walking up there. He's like, no, man, we're going to fucking do these grubs no matter what, man. This is just better. Look at these fucking 3 things. We're going to all get 10 gold in our pockets. 10 gold, baby. And like, it's like the void grubs are just too exciting for solo queue players, which I think is good because the fights are fun. The fights are streamlined. I think that's fun League of Legends. But I think that the psychology of the void grubs definitely accentuates the solo queue problem of playing an AD carry. But I don't think the problem is the champions that you play. I think that's something we all agree on, right? Yeah.
Anyone else final thoughts before we move on?
No, because I'll talk for like 5 more minutes about it, and I don't want to stay on topic. But I will close off and say it does pose a very interesting conundrum for probably the balance team, depending on how they viewed a lot of these discussions and their own opinion on it as a whole. Because it is kind of just about perception of strength and then also kind of trying to make sure that a particular section of the player base's power fantasy is met, you know, up to what they've kind of expected to become the standard, opposed to what has now become kind of objectively some of the strongest statistically ways to play the game in that role. So I do wonder what the actual, you know, if any changes will happen, like systematically around the role. because this is probably one of the bigger game balance discourses I think I've seen in a while about like anything besides basically, oh my god, playing red side bot lane like blows, which again kind of also accentuates the issue. If you play solo queue, playing red side kind of stinks. So yeah, I am kind of curious.
I'm gonna say it, guys. We have to buff dragons again.
But it just makes me feel really sad hearing we have to buff dragons. But
I think we should get rid of everything topside and just make the dragons worth gold. I think that would solve all the problems.
What about 190 gold for the
Yeah,
for the
bet that.
dragon?
Yeah.
I like that.
No, I mean, really though, I think it could be cool for a while to just be like, yeah, the elemental drakes have gone on holiday. They just fucked off. We've got these fledglings that you know, they haven't quite developed their elemental powers yet, but they do give you a bag of gold when you kill them.
I love the idea they're just void grubs with a mustache.
Dragon grubs.
Yeah.
They've just got like a Halloween mask on of an elemental drake.
But genuinely, I think the solution is like there needs to be more incentives to fight around bot. That's the key thing for me. Like, the incentives being balanced is tough because you are the guy who gets left alone and you're playing a champion that's not Gisante, right?
What's weird though is I think even that is still like perception of strength, right? Because I feel like everyone has come to this agreement that if you get anything less than 5 grubs, then grubs are kind of pointless. If you have 6 grubs, they're great, but only if you're winning. So how much are you really going to give up for grubs? And then teams are not willing to cross map grubs when the reality of the situation is if you cross map so efficiently on a grub play that you're upping gold and you basically change the game state into a situation where the enemy team can never really hit structures very efficiently or very frequently, then the grubs are fucking useless, right? So I think there is this air of teams still kind of window shopping, as it were, a bit too much. When to me, I feel like it's kind of like dragons back in the day before they were as important as they were to get to a soul, where you could give up a dragon if it meant you just go 3-man top and you make the enemy top laner lose like 4 waves and half a fucking turret, which is 2.5 plates. And you get your top lane ahead, even if your AD has to suffer, or sometimes the AD will be a part of that play, right? I just think there's been this weird, almost de-evolution of macro around the grubs, where it's like, we have to go headbutt the enemy team around them, as opposed to more composed plays in kind of reaction to a grub being taken.
On that topic as well, I feel like at the very start of the split, we saw like every single game had multiple bot dives. I feel maybe this is just totally anecdotal, but I feel like recently bot dives have become kind of rare, like weirdly rare, considering how easy it is to dive bot right now. And I think maybe the answer is because everyone is focusing on grubs. Maybe that's just like my bad memory or something. I don't know what you guys think, but I feel like team, especially with fucking Smolder in the game, I really feel like teams just do not dive bot anywhere near close to enough compared to the amount of opportunities I feel like I see for a bot dive that never get capitalized on.
I would say that I like when it comes to like the AD carry position, I don't feel like this discourse applies as well when it comes to like competitive games. I think
no, not at all.
Like when it comes to competitive games, I think people have a better awareness. I think what like when we think of like the strong competitive ADs right now, it's like Kalista, Varus, they're the go-to. Senna, Smolder, Lucian, and then after that, it's kind of like, do you play Ashe support, Ashe Ezreal, or Zeri, or Zyra Khan? It becomes a lot more open after that. But these 5, the first 5 that I mentioned, are relevant in every game unless there's 2 teams that just don't play Lucian. I think when Kalista Varus is in the picture, then the bot lane is super, super volatile. But when there's cases where like Smolder is laning against Senna and there's like an Alistar against Nautilus, cracking enemy bot in terms of dives, rarely happen because they require you to find like really, really good trades. It's just like kind of a lane situation where Senna Nautilus needs to kind of marinate you under the turret and hope that they can create conditions where you can get dove. I think that, like for example, today we saw there was a game with Kalista and Varus. When they both were open, they were just traded. Otherwise, they're banned. And then it's like Smolder Senna. That's like where we're at currently. And I think in the context of the games where Kalista Varus are involved, I see a lot of actions around bot. It's like it's much tougher to neutralize it. Like we saw it today in the EDG game, right, where they had like the Amumu support with the Kalista. Like that whole game was just 3v3s on bot side, 3v3s on bot side. Renata Varus against, it was just fighting. I didn't even know that like Void Grubs existed.
Yeah.
Like it was just fighting nonstop, right? And I think when it comes to the more, let's say, chill lanes, like Smolder, Senna, then it's like, we're falling asleep here. We can do a little bit of everything. We can move with our supports and take it easy. And I think it's cool when it's like dynamic like that. I feel like in competitive, I feel like these lamentations, they don't really apply. But I think in solo queue, I can understand that ADs don't feel like they have agency because in the end, jungle support decide. And I agree with you, Yamada, that in solo queue, it's like the Void Grub craze is crazy. It's like the Void Grubs mean everything in solo queue.
Playing jungle, and recently I've been playing support because I wanted to get a feel of how easy the role actually is to play in solo queue, and the answer is very easy. Trying to get my jungler to give up grubs in solo queue and go and dive bot, or as the jungler trying to convince my support that roaming to grubs is not the play and we should go and dive bot. It's actually like trying to
be Harvey Specter.
It's like trying to draw
doing the best clothes in the city, man.
yeah. It doesn't matter. Like they just do not care. So I'm not sure. Again, it's about like perception of strength against what is actually strong, right? And at the end of the day, perception will, for a player base, will always trump, in many ways, actual balance until they are quite physically shown that one thing is just straight up objectively better. And even then, they will probably still be like, no, but I like this one. Or I like doing this. Or, I like giving up 3 waves for my AD carry to cry for the rest of the game to get 3 purple grubs and then lose the next 3 because now my bot lane is behind and they actually don't make it to the next grub fight on time.
It's all about the dopamine, bro.
It's all about the dopamine. Exactly.
It's like League of Legends built like a casino, bro. Like when you put an AoE spell, bro, on the little grublets, and you fucking E with Lee Sin, and you put 1 gold. It's like, dude, Jesus, you got the jackpot.
Don't even get me started. The brand passive going from like the first one to the next 2 behind it, and then they all go, and then all of the +1s pop up. Mate.
That's why, bro, everyone loves playing Senna, Smolder, like stacking shit. It's like, I love fucking stacks,
You guys are kind of joking, but I feel like I could see that being the logic on when they're building more stacks champions and more champions that do this kind of shit. And like fucking where you like mash your buttons and all kinds of fucking crazy shit happens on the screen. There's explosions. There's fucking... Now there's an ocean underneath me. Now we've got shields. Yeah. Lightning from the fucking sky.
Bro, they know our psychology. They know it, bro. Everything is a sound. As you have an announcer, double kill. It's like, fuck, man, I want kills. Gold shines whenever you get a CS gold. Senna, it's like, why did he put 1 gold? Like, this 1 gold is irrelevant. But they are attacking your dopamine sensors. They need to make it hit hard, bro. If you kill those and don't get gold, it's like, fuck these things. They're not fun. It's like Senna picks up the soul. 8 gold. Gold. You've slayed the Void Grub. There's a sound. I don't know what the sound is when they killed.
Pretty sure it's exactly that. I'm pretty sure you nailed it.
Down up 1 more octave. It's just 1-to-1.
I need that as like my Twitch sub sound. Whatever that was.
Yeah, someone make like a League in-game sound pack of Yamato wailing. So for when the Grubs die, I'm fucking there. I'll pay money for that. I'll pay good money for that.
That's a serious problem, guys. Even with pro players, you need to like deprogram them because they want to stay and hit that plating and then die for it and ruin the game. You have to deprogram them. But it feels so good to get that plating. It feels so good to get that extra minion. But it doesn't matter. But it feels good. You have to deprogram them. 1 extra camp, Yamato, please. No. You have to go both. It's tough.
Yeah. It's an interesting game we all play, isn't it? That is going to be just about all the time we've got time for. We're trying to keep the episodes to about 90 minutes. I just want to say one final time, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Yamato, Jamada, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for all your insights on the LEC, on the LPL, on how different regions function, on game balance. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you both. Any final things you guys want to shout out, what you're doing right now, or anything like that? Jamada, we'll start with you, then we'll go to Yamato, then we'll go to Dagda, and then we'll round things out.
I don't know. I'm like on a work break right now, so nothing
Let's
other than
go.
I guess my own Twitch and which is actually just at Jamada. So have fun finding that one, not hard. And then obviously thank you guys for the invite. Even though it was super last second, I'm still happy I could be here, and I'm always very very thrilled to spend my time with you guys. You guys are awesome.
Absolutely, mate. Likewise as well.
Yeah.
Yamato.
Okay. First of all, thank you for having me, guys. This time went by really fast. It's like
Yeah.
you guys conquered the food coma I'm supposed to feel after eating currywurst for two. I didn't feel it at all. I've digested it well. I'm good to move on to my rotisserie chicken that I prepared as well.
Good.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure hanging out with you homies. It's some bro time. I appreciate that. Yeah, like on my end, I'm co-streaming everything. So if you are watching and you want to watch, we'll co-stream everything. I reached out to Munch today. Maybe we cook up something together. Maybe we do something together. Could be cool.
Oh yeah.
Catch all the LPO would be a good time. So just that, yeah. I'm excited for competitive league. I love League of Legends. I can say that proudly after 14 years of League of Legends. I feel blessed. I love League.
Hell yeah. I feel like this year as well. League is good right now. I'm enjoying League of Legends right now. Rob, anything you want to close out with?
I am almost not sick again, which means I'll start doing co-streaming again because I think you can still hear a little bit of my voice. I've been very under the weather, so I'm back from Ireland as well, which is going to make a big difference. So I'm going to start co-streaming again, but the main one is I'll be on LEC this weekend because we're back. So I'll be casting second set of games with Dracos. So looking forward to that. But yeah, apart from that, I've also been very much, just to give you Mato a shout out, his YouTube shorts are class. So you should go have a look at them.
Ooh.
Very funny.
Ooh.
But yeah.
Mine or your
Yeah.
mother's? I don't even know what's on my shorts.
Difficult
I'm an
names.
editor. That just
Oh, yeah, I have shorts. Sorry, what?
Whoa.
Excellent.
But yeah.
Shit, what did I say?
I'm going to check them out. That's the next thing
Yeah.
I'm going to do. I just want to say as well, I never noticed that your guys' names are so similar until I was
It
typing
took you
out lower
this
thirds for this episode. I was like, wait a
Yeah.
second. Are these the same guy? All right. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, everyone in chat, for joining in, asking a couple of questions, and watching along. We'll be back either next week or in a couple of weeks. Not sure. We'll figure that one out. Once again, thank you, Yamato, Jamada, for joining us, and we will see you next time for Banter with the Boys. We'll catch you then.